What we remember, though, is anything surprising or unexpected. Just like Shimon Peres remembering my name, this is number 3, it's the rental car company that installed a child seat without me having to ask for it. It's the flight attendant that memorizes passengers' names before they board the airplane, in first class, of course. Or it's the hotel that remembers you have a pineapple allergy from a visit 2 years ago. All of these stick to our minds simply because we did not expect them. Also called delighters, they're the basis of making people fall in love with a person or even a brand, and it's easy to harness that. Plus, it's free. Now, some jerks don't remember anything about anyone. They couldn't care less, right? The world is constantly evolving, and so are we. Whether in politics or business, we simply refuse to accept negative behaviors that were perfectly normal only a few years ago. In a recent New York Times article, the authors call for no more working for jerks, especially since we've all been rebuilding our lives after the pandemic. I did wonder, though, who's a jerk anyway, so I looked it up. Britannica says it's a person who's not well-liked or treats others badly. Now, Urban Dictionary really hits the spot, if you ask me, by saying it's the mandatory mindset for self-survival within corporate America. Now, I really wanted to show you examples of jerky communication by using photographs of famous politicians, only there's only so much I can do in public. So I'll show you photos of my 2 little boys instead, as they can be the biggest actors. According to Princeton University, there are 3 kinds of negative communication, harmful to ourselves and our relationship with others, and only one that's positive. First, there's passive communication. Second, there's aggressive communication. The worst is passive-aggressive communication, which, by the way, was the hardest for my kids to act out. The fourth and only healthy and positive kind is called assertive communication, the only way to lead to respectful and longer-term relationships. So how can we utilize it? I've spent thousands of hours working with highly successful people from dozens of industries and positions who cater to the world's wealthiest, which also means most demanding customers. And I've analyzed how they communicate in good times or bad to figure out their secret sauce for positivity. Number 1, we communicate with our bodies long before we switch our mouths on. A luxury real estate agent, for example, will never sit across the table from you, as that would feel like a subconscious barrier, implying rivalry, but next to you. Or even better is to furnish our offices with round tables, because these don't have sides at all. And even when they walk with you somewhere, they'll make sure to walk side by side, signaling equality and partnership. Now, looking at these, there's no way in the world to know who's selling and who is buying, right? That's entirely the point. Hold on a minute, though. Can't we do the exact same thing when we're dating? Of course we can. We're always selling something to someone. Here it's an apartment. On a date, it's something else. Number 2, the most successful salespeople in the world spend most of their days not speaking, but zipping it and listening. Something we all really, really suck at. As Denzel Washington said in American Gangster, the loudest in the room is the weakest in the room. Finally, even when they are the ones to speak, they hardly ever say no. As a matter of fact, they hardly ever say any negative term whatsoever. So this is number 4. They say no without saying no. Now, doesn't that sound like a dream for all the introverts among us who have a hard time saying no? Let me show you how. Private bankers, for example, speaking to clients of theirs worth billions, cannot say no, even when given an impossible request. Instead, they reframe their negative message into a positive one. Instead of saying what's impossible, they'll tell you what's possible. And instead of saying what they can't do, they'll say what they could do. And even when you ask them for a discount, no, that's a real trick, they will tell you something like, we already gave you the best price. Now, aren't these all much more likable and positive versions of no? And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean we shouldn't ever say no. Sorry for disappointing dear introverts among us. It just means we can almost always find a positive alternative. Did you also notice they change your I's into we's? Excellent communication can never just be about you, unless you're a narcissist. So scrap all your I's from now on. By the way, the word but is almost negative as a no. When we tell someone, I like you, but you're a jerk, do we like them? See, when we use the word but, we actually cancel anything we've said before it, so scrap that one too. And yes, it takes a lot of hard work and practice. I can tell you though, I can now spend entire days without ever saying no. So let's all unjerk by using anything humanly possible. First impressions, the 5 senses, remembering little details, and scrapping all negativity from our words and posture. And it works in any single language. Finally, a few years ago, in a Harvard Business Review article, Meyer and Greenberg answered the ultimate question of what makes a good salesperson. And it boils down to only 2 things: drive and empathy. I'd say positivity is the fine thread that connects them. So, what do my grandfather, Shimon Peres, and the most successful people in the world have in common? They're all driven people magnets who constantly exercise positive communication and are simply fun to hang around. We may think people are born as great communicators, yet positivity is not magical. It is science. As Shimon Peres said himself, optimists and pessimists die the same way. They just live differently. I prefer to live as an optimist. Thank you.